All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Travis Patterson, and we have a gem on this call today. Traditionally, I will be giving interview tips and coaching for sometimes businesses, but usually working directly with the applicants and candidates getting into the workforce. And here recently, a lot of businesses have been asking, do you have anything for us too? So LinkedIn is a wonderful place. So here recently I found Brad Park, and he has a wealth of knowledge that I believe that will help people get into the better instances of not just interviewing, but the piece that goes right before that. Because without recruiting, who are you going to interview? So I'm going to introduce him briefly, but I'm going to let him, he probably has a better introduction than I would, because he's the one that is helping people get interviews. He's the one that's helping people even get to that part of having that top of funnel if you are recruiting for talent. So Brad is a veteran when it comes to recruiting. He's been doing this for so long, and I'm just gonna let him finish out the rest. Brad.
Travis, how are you?
Doing fine, man. I'm so happy to talk to you today.
Nice chatting with you. It's nice chatting with you as well.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. So do me a favor, introduce yourself in the capacity of what you do and who you do it for.
Well, I started off in outside sales, door-to-door sales 31 years ago, and quickly realized that it was basically a recruiting business. And over the course of time, I have specialized in recruiting. So really who we focus on helping is high volume hiring. People who are hiring essentially the same humans over and over and over again. Because there's a lot of obstacles with it. There's, where do you find them? How do you get them? What do you say to them? How do you place an ad? And all that. And I've just been doing it for so long. The most interviews I've done in a day is 121 by myself.
121 interviews.
121. I was in New York City. I just come to the US. I'm originally from Canada. And I rewrote an ad, and this is back in the newspaper days. It was 93. And I noticed I was spent there for a week, and you got to pick up on the vibe, right? So I noticed after a week, everybody in the area that I interviewed seemed to be enjoying sports. Like sports was a major focus. In Canada, hockey specifically is a major focus, but not necessarily sports. So I just put in an ad that said sports minded. Well, we had people coming from everywhere. It was insane. So I interviewed 120. I was interviewing 4 people at a time. And actually, when I came to Atlanta, I posted the ad sports minded, and my wife answered it. So that ad got me my wife as well. It was a good ad.
The closer.
Really good ad.
Oh man. That is good. So for those that don't know, you have to think media. Before the internet was what it was, there's a company called Career Builder. People think, well, Career Builder, how could Career Builder start before the internet? They started through the newspaper. They're one of the oldest career boards that are out here. And this is not a plug or an ad for Career Builder. I am just very, very familiar with them. I used to actually work there, so I know all the ins and outs. And the newspaper was the way to reach many people at once and get people to take action on your call to action, which is give us a phone call or stop by my office for an interview. Is that fair to say?
That's the way it used to be. Like you'd get inbound calls, and you had to make sure people were picking up the phone. The rule was 2 rings. The 2 rings, you got to pick up that phone, and we got to talk to that person. And we used to preach, and all the recruiters I've ever had, I've trained. Some people have somebody train them for them, but I train them because I can do it. And some business owners avoid the recruiting like the plague, and it's a mistake because that's typically what the business you're in. You know, if I have Domino's Pizza, the person who's picking up the phone for the order would be the best person with the best voice. I'm going to make sure the person at the front counter greets the person with a big smile. Like, you're still recruiting to make sure you get the best people. The delivery driver, well-dressed, polite, like just you want the best people around to create the environment. So no matter what business you're in, getting the right talent in your business will determine whether you have a successful business or not.
I couldn't have said it better. I remember one morning I was at Starbucks and I was just thinking, who hired this person? Who recruited this person? It's like, this person is not a morning person. It's too early for someone to be rude to me. You know, I'm like, what is going on here? So, so some questions that I receive from business owners when it comes to recruiting is, I recruit. I know it, you know, very intimately. I used to work for Kelly Services, Manpower, Higher Networks, and some other companies, small to medium size, and even enterprise. And one thing I noticed consistently is that the hiring rate varied depending on the size of the company. So for me, you know, I used to recruit and manage my site of everyone that I filled, you know, for roles. And I used to have like 200 people on site, and I would have to collaborate with people externally to have them come in. So I would do the final interviews traditionally. I went off site, and then now here I am responsible for bringing in 40 people a week into pharmaceuticals, into manufacturing, and into, again, more labor positions, but also some banking, sometimes 2 to 3 people a week on that side, but 40 people a week on the pharmaceutical and manufacturing side. What do you think is one of the biggest, and here's the question that is asked, what do you think is one of the biggest issues or things that recruiters and old recruiters need to unlearn in order to get out of their own way to be successful in digital recruiting now?
Well, there's a few things. One of the things is you have to be adaptable. You can't do what you did 4 years ago or 8 years ago. Like in 2010, 2011, unemployment was high. You could be terrible and successful. It's sort of like if you're a real estate agent in 2006. Yeah, you're good. Are you good in 2008? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it depends. So during the pandemic in your local, do you know the restaurant Canoe?
No.
Okay, well, it's down the road from you, actually. You should go check it out. But
Okay.
the guy Canoe I've known for years, and he had his restaurant flipped around and doing basically it's a fine dining restaurant, drive through the front, and he would had food coming out and everything else. He did that within 3 days. Other restaurants were closed for 4 months. Well, what's the difference?
Oh, wow.
He's the CEO of multiple restaurants, but he's probably in a management ownership position of 70 to 80 restaurants today.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
he had that flipped around in 3 days. Other people closed for 4 months. Well, what's the difference? It's the same thing in recruiting in real estate. A friend of mine's a developer. And around 2007, 2008, things were getting pretty difficult. And we went to this event he had, my wife and I. And afterwards, my wife said, you know, it's funny, he's never done an event like this before. And I said, yeah, he hasn't had to because the sales were so easy. Well, now we're post-pandemic. People are still deciding how to get back to work. Now we got the Dow tanking. We have companies laying off. Things are definitely getting tumultuous. But currently, the biggest struggle companies have or recruiters are having are getting people to apply and willing to accept the position and so on and so forth. So the question comes down to is, if what you're doing was working, but now it's not working, you've got to change what you do and how you do it. There's people out there and you have to find them. And the reality is nobody hires the wrong person intentionally. They hire the best person of the pool of people they have to work with.
Right.
So
man.
Make your pool as big as possible.
So 2 things. One, I totally relate to that because, and so this kind of touches into, and there's probably a larger conversation when it comes to diversity recruiting and the purpose of why that's so important. I like to give the analogy, and this is based on what you just said, as far as you need a larger pool of people in order to have not only good candidates, but better candidates, and not just selecting what you have. But if you go into, here's my analogy. You go into a school or a hall, and each classroom is essentially representing a different career board, a different place where you get candidates. And you only have 10 cookies in your hand. If you go down 3 classrooms, more than likely and the cookies represent jobs. Your jobs are gone. So, well, what about the other 12 classrooms? it's not your fault that you don't have enough jobs, but how are you discerning how to divvy up between each classroom, each board? So essentially, if majority classrooms or majority job boards are reflecting real population, 60% may be white males, where a lower percentage may be white women or women, just women in general. But then, because I mean, women itself is a minority. You can be a diverse workforce, especially here in technology, by hiring more women. But then, where are you finding your African American? Where are you finding your Indian or Asian? Like, where's that population? There's a whole separate classroom where they are more predominant. And also in the first classroom that you walk by, they're in the back of the classroom. And guess what? You've already, it's probably not their fault. They're in the back of the classroom. It's just majority wins usually. So how do you impact how many people are coming, again, top of funnel, how many people are coming to your pipeline to apply for your jobs? I think that's where you need strategy on where you're going to apply, when you're going to apply, who you're going to talk to, how you're going to structure your interviews, who's going to do your interviews, simply because if you have a strong pipeline, that may unfortunately mean that although you posted a job on Monday, it may be more realistically, 12 days later, by the time you actually get to the bottom of your list or toward the other pipelines, just because there's so many coming your way. Now, people who haven't heard from you in 7 days, they've moved on to the next job. Now your pipeline is diminished. So that's a whole thing. And I know I'm supposed to be interviewing you now because you're the guy. You're the guy. I saw some of your LinkedIn profile. Guys, if you have not, make sure, I'm going to make sure I post this link in the comments below. You need to check out his LinkedIn profile because he's always giving presentations, advice. You really need to dig into this to improve the way you recruit. If you are new to this channel and you are getting into recruiting and you're interviewing for a recruiting role, Brad is going to help you take better steps forward so you don't fall into the old traps that people will teach you. Now, earlier you mentioned about unemployment. For recruiters, what does unemployment really mean? If the unemployment rate is high versus when it's low, what does that mean to the recruiter's job?
Well, we all know when unemployment's higher, you can pick and choose. It makes your job easier. Now, there are people that excel no matter what. Yeah. And those people are actually recruiter. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you excel no matter what the circumstances, then you're great at what you do. If you're good based upon the circumstances, you're not. And that doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you're not great at what you do. That's okay. You can either work to become better at what you do or go do something else. If you have a passion for it, then you're going to figure out how to become better at it. And in the current environment, to your point, you got to learn which job board's going to work. There's a little research to it because CareerBuilder in one market is not as good as ZipRecruiter in another, or Monster is still alive. They had it down. I don't know how they lost. They lost to CareerBuilder. CareerBuilder lost to Zip. And I don't know how that happens. These companies are massive and they still slip down a notch. But, you got to place it everywhere. And to the diversity, to that comment too, I always tell people, like, every new person is walking into a new position is still assessing whether they belong there or not.
Right.
And if you're a female, age 24, say, and you walk into a room with 17 men who are all scratching their butt and talking like they're in a locker room, you're probably not going to feel comfortable.
Right.
Especially if your female walks in, then suddenly these 17 men turn over and stare at you. You're really not going to feel comfortable. So I think that's why diversity is so important for the company, for the business owner. Forget that it's the right thing to do, but it's good for the business. We all know that men act differently in front of women. We just do. It's subconscious. We don't even mean to. Part of it's our mom. Part of it's just our desire to be liked by the opposite sex. But it's also conscious. We just act differently. So you got to learn where people are, You got to learn how to get people into your room and your pool. And you also, to your point, like if somebody's in your funnel and they're 7 or 8 days down the road, you're not moving quick enough. You can't do that today. You got to get to them. We still know that a high percentage of people will still accept the first position that's offered.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, because they're starting to think, well, I got 3 weeks of money left. So I got to get, this isn't perfect, but it'll do for now. 3 years later, they're still doing it. But that's why, speed to your candidate is critical. And communication, how to communicate with them. So many people now, depending upon what you're hiring for, they don't even have their voicemail set up. So you call, you can't leave a voicemail. What do you do next? I mean, the reason I got it, so I've been doing recruiting for a long time, but we built a software from the ground up. One of the reasons we did that is because we wanted to integrate texting into the recruiting process.
Exactly.
Because one of our recruiters calls, if nobody answers, they send them a text. They don't leave them a voicemail. They send them a text.
That's right.
Because text will get looked at. The email they send them. Exactly. And they can respond via text. And there's so much you can do, and people are coming. And, we send directions via text because that way they read it and they have it with them because it's on their phone.
Yeah.
We came up with this idea 8 years ago, and we now send and receive almost 11 million text messages a year. But that's how important it is.
As large as a number as that is, even that can be a small number when you think about how many text messages one individual was seeing in a normal day.
Oh, yeah. We text like a teenager. We're all over it. The average teenager sends and receives 1,500 text messages a day.
I can see that. Anywhere between 12 to 15K or 100. And I remember, and I may be revealing my age a little bit, but I remember when text messaging really first came out. I was in high school. And when it was like, all right, text me. First of all, I have minutes and I get charged. I get charged per text. So no, I will not. And if I text beyond a certain limit, then it becomes a multimedia message. And oh my gosh, I was like, no, everything I got to say to you, I think I learned then the power of sales is because you learn how to communicate what you have to ultimately to get what you want sooner. So you don't have to go over your minutes. So you don't have to go over your text messages. You found ways to say, okay, are we meeting up at this place at this time? Yes. See you then.
Absolutely. So it used to be, hey, can I borrow your phone? Like, well, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to call somebody? How long are you going to talk? Where are you going to call? Now it's like, you'll borrow my phone. How much battery are you going to use?
How much battery?
Everybody's unlimited, but man, I'm at 12%. What are you going to do?
So I'm thinking, because I speak to a lot of people when it comes to interviewing, but as an interview coach, I'm the applicant, you're the recruiter. If I apply for a job today, you posted a job, and I'm qualified, when you're going to call me?
As fast as possible, like this morning. If I get my recruiters, anybody who applies yesterday gets contacted today. Everybody. We do not leave any behind, and we will sift through it until we do it. And that means we have to do all hands on deck. And that means a lot of applies. That's beautiful. Whatever we got to do, because we have to be first, because we're recruiting not for ourselves, but for our clients. So when our clients are recruiting for themselves, they want to be efficient. Yeah. They want to make sure they utilize their time in the best way possible. But when they're paying somebody to do it, they want us to be effective. They don't care how much time it takes. They want to make sure they're paying for a result and we generate that result. So we make sure we attack. We have to.
I think, today we're probably more than likely still considered in a candidate's market. I know we're kind of phasing outward a bit, but in a candidate's market, it's easier for a candidate to decide, I want to be in the market at noon. Like, okay, I love my job at 8 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, I'm not so loving it at noon. I quit. And today, because it is a candidate's market, I think more recruiters, if they're not being aggressive, they're going to miss out because, again, I'm the applicant. It's noon. I just apply for 300 jobs, quick apply, quick apply, quick apply, quick apply, quick apply. Someone is right there in front of their LinkedIn or their Indeed or ZipRecruiter or Career Builder. An application just came in by 3 o'clock. I can have my first interview. Absolutely. I can have an offer out by tomorrow. I can receive an offer by tomorrow. Just that fast. If a person is not really acting on, like, well, even proactively or actively recruiting to a point where, like, wow, someone fresh just hit the market, you're gonna miss out. So this may be for those that are watching this next question may be a little difficult for you, but I promise, I believe that Brad has the answer. Brad, how do you manage your day? You post a job at 8 o'clock. Someone quit their job at noon. How do you manage your day to make sure that you're not just stuck in front of the computer all day, but at the same time, you're able to make a quick connection to let them know, hey, I saw you. Hey, when you get a moment, let's talk. How do you manage your day so you're just not consumed in working 10 to 15 hours, waiting for somebody just got off at 5 o'clock. Now they're applying. Well, you just got off work.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not efficient necessarily to just stay on for 20 hours, 15 hours a day, waiting for someone to respond. How do you manage your day so you can get that person?
You know, you're right. You know, there's people who work themselves to death and still don't get as much done as other people who organize their time to be effective. So we always work things in a loop. We do 3 loops. Our first loop is the most important loop. That's the first time we talk to people. And we organize based upon the market when the best time to call is. Because if a recruiter makes 50 phone calls and gets in contact with 35 people, that's pretty good. But if that same person makes 50 phone calls and gets in touch with 4 people, that's bad. That's a lot of, now we're calling more people more often.
Yeah.
So learn the market to figure out when the best time to call is. And that's when we focus on getting a hold of the majority of people. So I'm less interested in that one person who quit at 12 and they posted their resume at 1 o'clock, because odds are if that person quit at 12 o'clock, they didn't post their resume at 1. They're not that motivated. They're already drinking beer. So I'm not going to see that resume tonight. I might see it tomorrow, but more likely if it was a Thursday, not till Tuesday, because Monday they're just trying to recover because a bunch of the boys got together and by Saturday night, things were going full speed. Let's be honest. It's just, you know, it's life, right? So
I would say so.
Yeah. So I want to make sure my recruiters are focused on making outbound calls to that first group of people when they have the highest percentage chance of getting in touch with them, because then they're going to have the most successful calls and they'll have less second and third loop calls. So they're being most effective with their time. They're also being efficient, but they're going to deliver more people to the client than they would have if they chased the one outlier.
Oh, man. How do you as a recruiter prepare the beginning of your day how do you prepare the ending of your day for the next day?
The end of the day, we want to make sure we do a review of everything that occurred and then make sure anything we need for the next day, we are ahead of schedule. So for example, before I got on with you, I was pulling database. We have a client out in Colorado and my recruiter let me know yesterday before she left for this account that we don't have enough applies. We need more people. So I told her I'd have enough database people pulled that are fresh, because as you know, the cool thing about database, you can use keywords. You can go find, you're sourcing who you want. Yeah. And I make sure they're the freshest, so on and so forth. So I'll go in and make sure she has enough people to call in her prime time for her first round.
For sure.
So we can get enough people to book appointments and we take care of the client.
And it's like an appointment setter or a BDR kind of person.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we do is we'll the person has to be able to speak to a customer in a way that they're going to want to help the charity.
Yeah.
So if we're on the phone and they can't deliver or whatever, then we're going to know that by the end of the call.
Oh,
so
yeah, 100%.
Totally no. And, hey, if you're looking for warehouse, then, can you lift 40 pounds? It's just different. Whatever qualifications the client want, we make sure we deliver.
Here's one question that I always get. Again, you're the recruiter. Do you want a cover letter?
On the resume?
Yeah. So you post your job. I'm going to send you my resume. Do you also want a cover letter? How important is the cover letter nowadays?
It's not going to make or break you. So I think it's good, depending upon the position. Again, if you're applying for a warehouse job, I don't think it's important. But one of the things I will tell you is make sure your resume is up to date. A cover letter is good. Anything above, like anything management or even management light, I'd do a cover letter of some kind. The one thing I would emphasize, though, is make sure your resume is 100% up to date. A good friend of mine who's incredibly successful, he's retired twice, and he's back to work again, but he was applying for a position that paid $1.2 million a year. And he sent me his resume. Well, actually, they were giving it to him, and he ended up not taking it, by the way. But he's got options. But he sent me his resume. He's like, what do you think? I said, well, this last company, you're not currently there because you guys sold it 2 years ago. He said, yeah, I know. I said, well, it's like a 7-figure job. Like your resume should be accurate. And he was out of town at the time. I'm like, well, then go pay $1 to get it printed. Like update like it says you're currently there. That was 2 years ago. The company sold. You're not currently there.
Yeah.
Like every resume should be 100% accurate. Like 100%, nothing missed.
Even while you're still working there, update it as you go. Did you learn a skill yesterday?
Absolutely.
Yes.
For a living document. And come up with anything you can put on there, because especially now, I was talking to another friend of mine. He just got, he's got like an MBA from Emory. He's a talented guy. So he sends me his resume and I start asking him some questions. I'm like to put the things in there. So, because you're going to be recruited by somebody who's looking for an MBA. You got to make sure you have keywords in that resume so they find you. It's not a matter of what talent you have. They have to find you, and it's all keyword driven. And people don't know how to SEO a resume. And if you want to get a job, you have to. It's like SEO everything. The job boards are SEO, Google's SEO, LinkedIn's SEO. Your resume has to align with that, or you will not be found.
I would not be remiss if I did not do a plug in for my own book here. So again, for those that are new to this channel or just new to connecting with me, I'm a resume writer, and I've coined the term RSEO, resume search engine optimization, because the same way, you're looking for pizza in an area that you've never been in, best pizza in my area. It's a reason why this restaurant ranks higher than the others. How do you rank higher than the others when it comes to you being found by the recruiter? Because you're competing against hundreds, sometimes thousands, depends on the type of the position, especially if it's remote. How do you outrank? Your resume needs to communicate. I love using the term, it needs to be a weaponized resume. It needs to be effective. It needs to be a tool that you are able to use to be effective. So one tool, one little hint that I will share with people who are applying to be a recruiter or to get in human resources in that way, applicant tracking systems don't all require the same actions. This is what I mean by that. So if you are a recruiter and you're posting a job, depending on the applicant tracking system, the actual where you posting the job and you're looking to receive applications, it may be a system where you don't even realize that you can check or uncheck if you want the cover letter to be required or not. So sometimes it may just, even if it says we want a cover letter, if it's required, definitely, I agree with them. Like, I agree with Brad. Go ahead and push that cover letter. If it's not required, I think it's not going to make a break. Like, it's optional. Because essentially, you're just creating, depending on the urgency of the position, right? You're just creating an additional document, an additional barrier between you and the phone call. Are they going to, your resume is designed to get you an interview, not to get you a job. You get the job.
Right. Absolutely.
So if you are also creating a cover letter, okay, this is just additional conversation that you're more than likely going to hear in the interview or give in the interview. But if it's requiring it, definitely make sure you have a cover letter. Every ATS, applicant tracking system, is not the same. So make sure that as you are, you know what, go find out who your competitors are. If you are a recruiter or an SDR or a BDR or an account executive or a talent acquisition specialist, management, whatever the variation of the title is, look at the responsibility. Make sure that you're pulling out the keywords there out of the responsibility of the job. In addition to that, go on LinkedIn, look up talent acquisition specialist in Atlanta, talent acquisition specialist in New York. It's going to be a reason why the top 10 people populate in your search. What makes them so special? Why them? And go through their profiles. Start looking at how you can start integrating some of those words, some of that terminology into your own profile, into your resume, so you can outrank in the ATS. So I would have to say, we're gonna wrap up here in a little bit. I know people are gonna be wondering, one, how to get in contact with you. Two, how can they get help from you if they want to improve or enhance their process?
Well, the one thing I would say, first of all, to your previous comment, any company that wouldn't interview, and this is just me, I have a rebellious nature. That's why my kids are the way they are. I blame their mother, but I can't really. But any company that would demand a cover letter to even consider me for an interview, I wouldn't want to work for. That's
wow.
Just me. Because I'm like, if they're that nitpicky on the front, oh my God, you're not going to enjoy life. And I want people to work with me. They want to work with me because it's fun. Like you got to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's just part of that. But if somebody wanted to learn, I'll give any good human 15 minutes. So an email, LinkedIn message, I get lots of them. That's how you reached out to me, through LinkedIn. Nobody likes the spammy, hey, are you thinking about crypto? Like, no, I'm thinking about lunch.
Right. I'm thinking about how I'm gonna get a raise. I'm thinking about my promotion. I'm thinking about getting home, getting this traffic.
Yeah, your message was good and clear. And anybody sends me a real message, I'm in. Or an email, I'm in. Like, if I can help somebody, I'll help, because I always get something out of it. Everybody gets something. What people don't understand, I think, not everybody, but I think one of the misconceptions in life is that you have to get something in order to move up. Yeah. You actually give. And the more you give and the more people you give to, the more you'll end up with. Because you're going to get something back from the give. It always works that way. It's like if you're depressed, if someone's depressed, go help someone. It'll make you feel better. You'll just feel better. They'll say thank you. Maybe they won't. You're just going to see whatever happened improve. Maybe your neighbor's garbage cans are knocked over. Just do something nice. When you're driving around, let that person in. This makes me crazy. Drive through a parking lot. If somebody's backing out, stop and let them back out. Just do something nice. Do 3 things nice in a row. Look for 3 things to do nice and you'll feel better. Well, you didn't get anything, but you feel better.
Yeah.
Because you gave something. You did something for someone. It's the way the brain works. The human subconscious is very powerful.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree with that more. For those that would like to learn how to improve your emotional intelligence so you can get through more interviews, so you can get through more calls, so you're not so exhausted, what Brad just said is actually really key. If you can find ways to kind of switch up your day, be kind. If you're kind normally, then just go take a walk, like get some fresh air, and come back and hit the applications as strong as possible so you can get the right interview at the right time. People are going to want to know how to get in contact with you. So I know I'm going to include your LinkedIn. Is there any other sites you want them to have?
They can email me, brad@applicantstarter.com. Happy to, that's my personal email. It's not like it goes somewhere and I have somebody managing it. I don't do that. I handle all the stuff.
And he also gave you guys a clear path. If you want to message him on LinkedIn, he just told you how to connect with them. Don't send a thick block of some sales script. Don't copy and paste some message. Be human, be kind, and just say hello. And I'm sure he'll get in contact with you fairly quickly. So thank you so much for watching this. And as always, we look forward to helping you exceed and just move the needle. If we can help you in just one step today, then that's a win for the day. Until next time, my name is Travis, and today's guest, thank you, Brad, for coming on. I really hope that recruiters new and seasoned are able to get something from this. I know that I have, and I've been recruiting for a while. So I really hope that everyone can as well.
Thanks, Travis.
Thank you. Until next time, guys, make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next time. See you soon. Bye.